Rosalie Arden always thought she knew her family until Thanksgiving revealed their darkest secret. What seemed like an inheritance turned into a trap filled with hidden debt, betrayal, and lies that could ruin her life. With unexpected allies, dangerous truths, and a shocking romance, Rosalie fights to uncover the truth and protect herself. Who will survive when family and secrets collide? The Arden estate had always looked the same in photographs, but in reality, it felt like a cage Rosalie had returned to far too many times. The leaves crunched under her boots as she walked up the long driveway, the evening sun casting long shadows across the manicured lawn. She could feel the house watching her, its tall windows reflecting the last streaks of daylight like eyes waiting for her to arrive. She had spent years building a life in Boston, carving out independence and purpose away from the smothering expectations of her family. Yet, here she was, drawn back by a vague message from her mother that something important awaited her. Rosalie knew better than to assume the word important meant good. Inside, the house smelled faintly of cinnamon and old wood, of perfection maintained at the expense of honesty. Celeste Arden greeted her with a tight, rehearsed smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her father, Malcolm Arden, lingered near the staircase, his posture rigid, as if bracing for impact. And then there was her sister, Livia Arden, the golden child, the one who had inherited a charm like it was a birthright, and the one Rosalie had always been measured against, quietly, meticulously, at every family gathering. "Rosalie," her mother said, voice syrupy, "we're so glad you came. We have something very important to discuss." Rosalie tilted her head, masking her wariness with polite attention. "I'm listening," she replied, careful, even, letting her voice carry the hint of authority she had developed over years of independence. Malcolm handed her a manila envelope. The weight of the papers inside was subtle, but unmistakable. She knew this ritual well, the Arden way of manipulating trust under the guise of family matters. She flipped it open carefully. Pages upon pages of numbers, blacked out amounts, hastily scrawled notes, signatures she didn't recognize. Her chest tightened. "I'll have my lawyer review these," she said, calm. "It's the safest way to make sure everything's in order." Celeste's hand twitched at the edge of her apron. "Oh, darling, there's no need. We trust you'll understand." Rosalie smiled faintly, the kind of smile that meant she understood far too much already. Trust in Arden House was a weapon, and she had learned to wield it cautiously. Dinner at the Arden estate was a spectacle disguised as tradition. Candles flickered on the polished oak table, silverware gleamed unnaturally, and the aroma of roasted meats mixed with the faint sweetness of pies cooling on the counter. Every detail screamed perfection, yet Rosalie could feel the tension underneath, subtle and precise, like a pulse just out of sync. Livia floated around the table in a sapphire dress, adjusting napkins, straightening the centerpiece, ensuring every reflection captured her light. Her smile was flawless. Her movements were flawless. And she expected everyone, especially Rosalie, to notice how effortlessly she commanded attention. Rosalie eased into her chair, the leather cool against her palms. Her hand brushed the hidden folder under the table, the one containing proof of the Arden family's hidden debt, the trap that awaited anyone naive enough to accept the house as a gift. "You're home early," Livia said, voice bright with the practiced ease of someone who had never known struggle. "I didn't expect you to take time from Boston for family matters." Rosalie's eyes met hers. "I like to keep track of things before they spiral out of control," she replied evenly. Livia's smile flickered. Amusement. Challenge. It was brief, almost imperceptible, but Rosalie noticed. From the doorway, a man leaned casually, observing the room. Dark hair, piercing gray eyes, a presence that made every nerve in her body tingle with alertness. Damien Blackwood. She had seen him at a few family events before, but tonight he seemed different, calculated, measured, aware of more than anyone else in the room. When their eyes met, a current ran between them, sharp, electric, and slightly dangerous. She had no illusions that he was neutral in the chaos about to unfold. Dinner began with careful politeness, but the atmosphere thickened when Livia tapped her glass. "Mom, Dad, the house is finally mine," she announced, her voice bright and clear, carrying across the room. "Rosalie, well, you'll understand eventually." The room erupted in applause. Livia's fiancé, Theo, clapped loudly, his smile forced. Everyone seemed caught in the performance, except Rosalie. She remained seated, her hand brushing the folder beneath the table. Her smile was quiet, controlled, sharp with awareness, cold with intent. "Should I explain?" she asked softly, eyes locking on her father. The smile vanished from his face instantly. The room fell silent, tension snapping taut. Rosalie opened the folder, sliding the documents forward. Overdue notices. Hidden mortgages. Payments missed by months. Interest accruing relentlessly. The house wasn't a gift, it was a trap. Gasps echoed. Livia's hands trembled. Theo's face was drained of color. Celeste's eyes welled with tears that could have been guilt or fear. Rosalie leaned back, calm, deliberate. "This isn't inheritance. It's responsibility for debts you tried to hide. You chose to pass the burden to her, and it almost worked." The silence was deafening. And then came a knock. The door opened, revealing a woman in a plain suit, a badge clipped to her belt. Her presence was quiet yet commanding. "Mr. and Mrs. Arden," she said, voice precise, measured, "we need to speak regarding your mortgage records. There are inconsistencies that require clarification." The room erupted again. This time, no cheers, no laughter. Only shock and fear. Rosalie remained seated, letting the truth settle where it belonged. Damien stepped forward from the doorway, eyes fixed on the family. His presence drew Rosalie's attention like gravity. She felt the tension spike. He wasn't here by chance, he was here for something or someone. As questions were asked, evasions faltered. The Arden facade cracked, revealing layers of lies and manipulation. Rosalie realized this was her moment. Not to punish, but to claim control of her life and confront the twisted web her family had spun. Damien's gaze met hers. Intense, challenging, unmistakably personal. Their connection, born of conflict, attraction, and danger, was only just beginning. Over the following hours, truths began to surface. Hidden bank accounts, falsified signatures, unauthorized loans. Rosalie pieced together the puzzle while maintaining the poise that had become her shield. Livia's confidence cracked. Her carefully constructed world began to crumble under the weight of reality. Theo stayed close, torn between loyalty and fear, yet even he could not ignore the magnitude of the deceit. Rosalie's eyes met Damien's across the room. Every glance was a question, a challenge, a warning, and an unspoken promise. They were allies by necessity, enemies by circumstance, and, somewhere in that tension, something dangerous was blooming. By the end of the night, the Arden estate had shifted irreversibly. Rosalie had exposed the hidden debt. Livia was shaken to her core. Celeste and Malcolm Arden were left with no illusions, no defenses. Rosalie stepped into the hallway, Damien following silently. She could feel the weight of what was coming, the battles she would have to fight, inside the family, outside with Damien's secrets, and within herself as she navigated this newfound power. As she looked back at the fractured family behind her, she whispered to no one, "This is only the beginning." The storm had been awakened. The night after the Thanksgiving confrontation, Rosalie Arden couldn't sleep. The Arden estate, quiet now in the aftermath of revelations, felt like a house of ghosts. Shadows stretched across the walls, carrying memories of every calculated smile, every whispered lie she had endured. Her mind raced not only with the betrayal of her family, but with the enigma that had walked into her life, Damien Blackwood. He hadn't left her side since he stepped into the dining room that evening. His presence was both a shield and a warning. She didn't know if she could trust him, but the way he observed, the way he anticipated, made her feel alive in ways she hadn't felt for years. Rosalie rose from her bed, pulled a shawl around her shoulders, and gazed out the window at the sprawling grounds below. Something about Damien's eyes lingered in her mind, sharp, calculating, yet strangely protective. She couldn't shake the sense that he knew more than he had revealed. And for the first time in a long while, She welcomed a challenge she didn't fully understand. The following morning, Rosalie returned to the dining room with purpose. Damien was already there, leaning casually against the doorway, arms crossed, his sharp gaze following her movements. "You're early," she remarked, her tone teasing yet edged with tension. "I don't like surprises," he said simply, "especially when the family involved has a history of them." Rosalie arched an eyebrow. "And you're involved, how exactly?" He smirked faintly, a dangerous curve of his lips. "Let's just say I know a thing or two about Arden finances. And I'm not here to watch you get hurt." Her pulse quickened. The line between ally and adversary blurred. She didn't know if she was supposed to trust him or push him away. Before she could respond, a knock came at the door. Livia entered cautiously, her sapphire dress now replaced by a softer, muted tone. But the tension in her shoulders spoke louder than her words. "Rosalie, I don't know what to do," Livia whispered, her voice trembling. "Everything's falling apart." Rosalie regarded her sister carefully. "You could have known," she said softly. "You could have asked. But you didn't." Livia's hands shook as she looked down. The sparkle of the golden child was gone, replaced with a fragile vulnerability. For the first time, Rosalie saw the sister she had shared childhood nights with, the sister who braided her hair, who whispered secrets under the covers, who had once been her closest companion. Damien's eyes flicked between the sisters, reading the room with precision. Rosalie realized then that their uneasy alliance was not just about exposing the Arden family, it was about survival, trust, and something dangerously magnetic between them. Over the next week, Rosalie and Damien dug deeper. Hidden accounts, fraudulent documents, and transfers to shell companies revealed a tangled web of deceit that implicated her parents far beyond the second mortgage. "What the hell have they been doing?" Rosalie muttered, staring at her laptop screen. Damien's jaw tightened. "More than you think. And if they find out we're digging, it won't just be an embarrassment they face." Her heart thudded, not from fear, but from the closeness of him, the way his presence pressed against her shoulder when he leaned in to point at the screen. Something simmered in that proximity. Tension, attraction, danger. "You're infuriating," she said, trying to mask the flutter in her chest. "Good," he replied, a half-smile teasing. "I'm supposed to be." It was dangerous. She knew it. Yet she couldn't stop herself from noticing the warmth of his hand brushing against hers as they pored over documents, the way his eyes lingered just a second too long, the quiet moments when their shared glances spoke more than words ever could. The next confrontation came when Rosalie demanded an explanation from her parents. Malcolm Arden's pride clashed with the undeniable evidence. Celeste Arden's tears were no longer performance. They were genuine despair. "I didn't want you to be burdened," Celeste cried. We thought we could handle it ourselves." "You burden me already," Rosalie said firmly, voice shaking only slightly. "But this isn't about punishment. It's about honesty. You lied for years, and that ends now." Damien watched silently from the doorway. Then, unexpectedly, he stepped forward. "I can help," he said. "I know how to protect her from the fallout. But you need to be honest. Every account, every transfer. No secrets left." Her parents exchanged a fearful glance. The truth finally pressed against the walls of Arden House, leaving no room for deception. Livia, meanwhile, remained silent, processing her sister's power for the first time. There was resentment, yes, but also a recognition of strength. Late one evening, Rosalie found herself walking the estate grounds with Damien. The night was cool, the leaves whispering secrets only they could hear. "You know this isn't just about money, right?" he said, voice low. "It's about trust. And betrayal. And something else." Rosalie's heart skipped. "Something else?" "You," he said simply. "Don't fight it." The tension between them snapped like lightning. She wanted to resist, to remind herself he was tied to her family's secrets, that trust could kill her. Yet the pull was magnetic. Their first kiss was fiery, urgent, an acknowledgement of danger and desire, enemies and lovers colliding. But just as quickly, they pulled apart. Reality intruded, the debt, the family, the chaos. Nothing about this could be simple. Days later, Rosalie orchestrated a confrontation that forced her parents to face the consequences of their actions publicly. Family, friends, neighbors, and even distant relatives gathered as she revealed the truth of the Arden estate. The house was no gift. It was a financial trap. Every hidden account, every falsified document, every attempt to deceive was laid bare. Malcolm Arden collapsed into his chair, exhausted and humiliated. Celeste Arden wept, finally understanding the gravity of their manipulations. Livia's golden child veneer shattered. She turned to Rosalie, voice trembling. "What do we do now?" Rosalie held her sister's gaze. "We survive. We rebuilt. And we never let them lie to us again." From across the room, Damien stepped forward. Their eyes met. The tension, the danger, the attraction, they acknowledged it silently. Together, they could face what remained of the Arden legacy. Weeks passed. The house was put on the market. Rosalie oversaw the finances, guiding Livia through therapy and support. Damien remained by her side, sometimes a protector, sometimes a partner in investigation, and sometimes the man who made her pulse race in ways she couldn't ignore. Her parents moved into a modest apartment, stripped of illusions, stripped of power. They were forced to confront the consequences of their secrets and deceit. Rosalie stood on the estate balcony one evening, Damien beside her. The sunset painted the horizon in shades of fire and gold. "You did it," he said softly. "No," she replied, hand brushing against his. "We did it." For the first time, Arden House felt like a memory, a lesson, and a warning. Rosalie had faced betrayal, uncovered secrets, claimed the truth, and discovered love in the most unlikely place, with someone who had been both enemy and ally. The storm had passed, leaving clarity in its wake. And for the first time in her life, Rosalie Arden smiled freely, not just surviving, but thriving, with Damien at her side and a future unburdened by deceit.